Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. News in this gospel abroad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit from Full Spectrum Survival. I was watching a couple of minutes of this video, and he goes in and says U.S. collapse warning, retail shutdown, and supply chain crash warning. As I've seen a couple of videos that basically United States having to concede to China when it comes to the trade war, because like I've always mentioned, America, you don't have leverage to play ball when the ball is not in your court. Okay, the only thing that you may have some type of leverage on, and barely that, is your military industrial complex, because that's where you invest all your money. That in tech companies, man, in corporations. But manufacturing, when it comes to creating or producing goods here in the United States, that day is dead and gone. And they've been doing away with manufacturing since the year 2000. So that's literally 25 years of manufacturing, actually beyond that, of manufacturing totally depleted, outsourced to other countries. So you have no leverage in this trade war. And he was basically going into how this place is getting ready to collapse. And me personally, I don't see how this place could continue to go, because you have what they call the Great Reset, which is all done by design. It's all systematically done. They've already sent the jobs overseas as far as manufacturing, and that was done on purpose. Okay, to create a system that we're looking at now. So this has always have been a plan to totally bankrupt America, totally destroy the dollar, send manufacturing to different countries, and basically have the American taxpayer to be as a cattle, overpaying in taxes and literally paying the highest amounts to barely live. You know, like they mentioned that 99% or 1% of the 1% owns more wealth combined than 99%. That makes sense, right? While the average American, they're stupid, man. They're dumb. You know, they wake up and they totally plummet themselves into oblivion with stress by working in these jobs that's dead end. Because most jobs that we got is dead end. And they may hide it under a so-called pretty wage, but wages have been stagnant compared to how much inflation has went up the last 5 years. Really the last 2.5, 3 years. You know, inflation increased 17%, but you get 2%, 3% raise. That the math is not mathing. So you're still behind a rock in two hard places. So my question is, why aren't these people roused up yet? And ultimately it's the Spirit of the Lord, because he got these people in a docile state of mind on a spiritual level. But when you look at it on a physical level, the fact that people have the still illusion of freedom, the fact that they can still buy groceries and go inside their nice homes and drive their 2025s and all that other shit, that gives them some type of hope. Okay, like the scriptures say, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, but a gift destroyeth the heart. Okay, and these people are in the mindset that they're American, they can weather the storm and they will bounce back, and we will be greater than we've ever been. But America is declining rapidly. All right, so anyway, I got a video here. I'm gonna play maybe 5-6 minutes, and towards the end of the video I got another video I want to play, and we'll get a couple of precepts. But hey, this shit is finna fall. The job market is getting ready to collapse. Mass layoffs is getting ready to come. Famines, the emptying of shelves, and soon to be riots in the streets. Okay, so here we go.
Welcome everyone, you are watching.
And by the way, fair use. I'm making no money for this video. This is not for profit. This is not for entertainment, but this is just to inform an audience as to real events is equating to Bible prophecy. That's it. I'm not making no money off this. This is not being shared in any type of monetary type of value. So we're just reporting on what we see, as the scriptures tells us to watch and pray. So here we go. Fair use.
Full spectrum survival, we are bringing you the news that you need to know. We have some information coming to you right out of the president's mouth, some information coming out about the whole ICE situation and what's going on with the tariffs. China is making major moves against the United States of America. They are moving in their manufacturing and their production of drones for warfare, and they are moving in the way that they support countries that are aligning themselves against the United States of America. Now, let's first go look and see what President Donald Trump has to say about this today.
But ultimately, they have to make a deal because otherwise they're not going to be able to deal in the United States. So we want them involved, but they have to, and other countries have to make a deal.
But you don't have no leverage, bro. Like, what do you mean they can't deal here? What, you gonna kick them out? They already got Gurkhas over here. They already have military over here posted up in your dry lands. The farming is pretty much null and void. 95% of the shit here in America, manufacturer wise, things you get on Amazon, all these things, they're made in China, bro. Like, hell, bath towels are made in India. I mean, everything you see is made in China, from the faucets to the towel. Everything is made in China, bro. So what you gonna get manufacturing of what you're gonna get Chinese goods out of here? Then what? Then your economy just gonna totally plummet. Because who's buying American? Hell, even Ford parts are being manufactured and outsourced in different countries. You know, Mexico, fucking type parts of China. Bro, you have no leverage here, man. He is bluffing.
If they don't make a deal, we'll set the deal. Because we're the ones that set the deal. Scott and Howard and myself and others, we're going to be setting the deal, and it'll be a fair deal for everybody, and it'll be...
Now, what's happening there is President Trump is discussing what's going on with China. We tried to pull a very, very difficult card with manufacturing at a global level. It's not just because China gives slave labor low prices to America. It's not just for that reason alone that 60 to 80% of the goods in your Walmart, your Target, your Walgreens, your local stores are cheaper and made in China. It's because 40 years of globalization effort has pushed China to become a literal super giant. China right now has the capacity, the willpower, and the capability to surpass the United States of America in almost every form of manufacturing.
They already did. I mean, soon they finna be able to they finna be on a whole different level militarily too. Because unlike you, China actually invests in their infrastructure. You don't. Idiot. Habakkuk 2 and 3, it says, "For yet the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie." It's not lying. Okay, and this is all being done through design to bring in a digital system, because the only thing America care about is setting up a digital technocracy and microchipping everybody. That's the whole thing. They want to lead the world in that when it comes to AI, but they not even number one. They don't even have a... Bro, you're behind when it comes to even the cashless society, man. India, parts of Europe, all different places are already opted to going cashless, and you still playing games. You know? But it says, but it will not tarry. But it says, but his soul which is lifted up in him is not right, but the just shall live by his faith. This dude is clearly delusional to say that, well, we want to make a deal. Yeah, you can make a deal, but you don't have the leverage, man. Okay, just because your dollar is the world reserve currency, that doesn't mean people have to use it. This is why you have what they call BRICS nations, man. People are dumping a dollar like by the hour, by the second, and the debt is constantly increasing. And it says here, yea, because he transgressed by wine, which is your philosophies. He is a proud man, need to keep it at home, who enlarges his desire is hell, and is his death and cannot be satisfied. So let's just say if you did make the trade with China, and they concede to your demands, you'll just find another reason to fuck it up. And you'll find another reason to enslave people and to destroy the world. Okay, you can't do anything without chaos. That's how you operate, You know? It says they cannot be satisfied. So he, no matter what, he's gonna find a problem with something. He will never honor peace. But gather unto him all peoples and heap unto him all people. And this is what he's trying to do. It says, should not these take up a proverb, a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? But it says, but how long to him that laid himself with thick clay? And that's debt, bro. Debt. You're adding more debt to yourselves, man. And that ain't gonna do nothing but lead into a economic collapse. Because, you know, like the brother always say, kicking the can down the road. It's just like a snowball effect. When you roll a snowball downhill, it starts off small, but as it gains momentum through force, and this is basic physics, it picks up steam and it picks up more velocity, and then it gets bigger to the point when it gets so big, it's a wrap. And basically, we're in a snowball effect right now. Okay, it says, it says, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be booties unto them, which is spoils. And it reads, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood and for violence and for the land of the city, all that dwell therein. Okay, so the trade war is not going to end favorably for you, even if they want to make a side deal or whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, they can call your bluff because they don't need you. They have manufacturing. You have manufacturing. I don't give a damn. You could be the poorest economy in the world. If you have constant manufacturing and you're making goods and people need those goods, you're going to always thrive. You're going to always see GDP growth. Always. Okay? No matter what. Right? Obadiah 1:7, it says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, because, you know, for some time they was talking peace with China. And it never really been peace, but they've had dealings with one another, you know, for exchange for certain goods, and the US dollar, and America pays top dollar for Chinese goods, man. You know what I'm saying? And this is what Trump is basically complaining about. So as long as you was keeping that Chinese fed with your money, shit, hey, they'll send you anything. They'll send your ass a pacifier in the mail, said made in China. If you're going to send them $1 million in return, they'll do it. Because the gooks are basically, they're like secondhand Edomites. They want to be just like Esau. They're about money and power and status. And that's the scripture in 2nd Esdras 15:44 when it says, roughly paraphrasing, when it goes into, thou art partakers with Babylon, and the glory of thy beauty has faded, roughly paraphrasing it, going into Asia. You know? And it says, and the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. And they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is no understanding in him. Because if you had full comprehension as the type of dangerous game you were playing, you wouldn't have pulled that card. Basically, you're bragging on a spade stable, and you don't even have a book in your hand, bro. Okay, you're calling somebody's bluff. That's like playing jack stack, or what do you call it? What's that poker game? Playing poker, or Texas Hold'em or something like that, and knowing that you ain't got the fucking flush, you're through. They're calling your bluff, and they know you ain't got it, bro. You know?
And retail. This is hugely scary to the United States, because this means that China doesn't care what we do with the tariffs. They'll just stop. They'll hold back the products. They'll make it so that we don't have those things anymore. And let me tell you, when we ran, and let's just do a little exercise here for ourselves, okay? Let's go ahead and watch this together. This is Twitter, or X.com's version of artificial intelligence. Let's ask it a quick question.
This is an ad for your money. I know what you think.
We're going to ask it, what happens to American streets if 60 to 80% of the non-food goods are no longer available? Let's jump right into it. It says if 60 to 80% of the non-food goods in the USA were no longer available, the impact on America's streets would be profound, reflecting a cascading So a debilitating economic, social, and behavioral change. The breakdown would be a complete retail collapse. That's most non-food goods like clothing, electronics, furniture, appliances. These things are going to vanish from the stores. So guys, if you have 10 items, let's say you have 10,000 items inside of Walmart, and 80% of those, 8,000 of them, clear out because China didn't reship them, what do you think is going to happen to the other 2,000? Now, we're used to a Walmart in which people come in and they clear out certain products. Some are held back, of course, because they don't sell, but some sell out and need to be replaced right away. In fact, a vast majority. That's how Walmart makes their money. If they weren't selling those products, they wouldn't keep them in stock because there's no point in them just having them on the shelf. So they pass through all of these different products, and if 8,000 out of 10,000 are suddenly gone, those 2,000, whether people need them or not, are going to go away, and they're going to go away very quickly. That's going to include your medicine on the shelves. So this is Bayer low-dose aspirin. I hate that this is also made by a company that makes a pesticide because it seems like they have a cure and a cause for your problems. But low-dose aspirin with salicylic acid, there's lots of nationalinstituteofhealth.com, lots of university studies that show just how important it is for human health and how it...
Right. And I actually did the same research as well, but I typed in a little different. So anyway, Ezekiel 38. Because the American people are slow as hell. They don't know what's going on in this. And this is what happens when you're totally uninformed. Okay, these people don't know nothing. They don't know the laws. They don't know the penal code. They don't know nothing. They don't know the tax law. They don't know shit. This is why these people get duped into paying these high ass prices, because they don't know nothing, man. Here you got 30,000 pages of the tax code, and you can't even recite one of them, because they don't teach you that as another way to oppress you, But anyway, I did this, and I typed in what happens when an economic collapse happens. And it says an economic collapse is a severe disruption of a country's economy, characterized by a sharp decline in economic activity, widespread financial instability, meaning that, the financial wealth is totally null and void. The dollars that you got in your account is pretty much a wrap, And it says here, widespread financial instability, meaning you don't have security anymore. It says significant social political consequences, civil unrest. Here's the breakdown of what typically happens during such an event based on historical examples and economic principles. And this is going to happen in America, man, soon. Okay, we can see this as soon as this year, as soon as this summer, if they don't get this shit together. And eventually it's going to happen anyway, whether they try to fix it or not. This is prophecy, and this is going to happen. So while they're building up all this shit in America, eventually they're not going to be able to finish it, because, this is like where the money going to come from. And half the things that they're building with is shit from China. But it says here, bank failures. Banks may face insolvency due to bad loans, panic withdrawals, which is bank runs, or loss of confidence, as seen during the Great Depression or the 2008 financial crisis. It said, which was still in a financial crisis. It says a credit freeze. Lending dries up as banks and financial institutes become risk averse, starving businesses and consumers of capitals. Stock market crash, equity markets plummet, wiping out wealth and investor confidence, like 1929 crash or the 2008 market dive. And that's something small compared to what's getting ready to happen. Okay, this is why they've been kicking the can down the road, because once this collapse happens, there ain't gonna be no picking up. It's a done deal. It says in some cases, a country's currency loses value rapidly, especially if it's pegged to unstable reserves, or its hyperinflation kicks in. The Weimar Germany, Zimbabwe. Economic contraction, mass unemployment, and this is where people are going to start to lose it, because when you take away people's ability to financially free themselves and to have the liberty they need to live, then that's when people are going to lose it. See, the reason why people ain't losing their minds now, because they still have the illusion of being able to get up and go to Walmart. They can still go to the movies, or they can still, go to the barbecue picnic You know, they could still buy vodka, or they could still go buy a 5 for $5 at McDonald's. You know, they could still do that, so they're cool. You know, and it says business fail or cut costs leading to layoffs. Unemployment rates can soar, as seen in the U.S. during the Great Depression, 25% unemployment, or Greece during its 2010 debt crisis. And they was rioting over that shit. It says decline in GDP, which means economic output shrinks significantly, often triggering a deep recession or depression. For example, the U.S. GDP fell by nearly 30%, from 1929 to 1933, which is 4 short years. Business failures. Small and large businesses collapse due to reduced demand, lack of credit, or supply chain disruptions. Deflation or hyperinflation. Prices may plummet, deflations, hurting producers, or skyrockets, eroding savings and purchasing power. Venezuela's hyperinflation hit 1.7 million% by 2018, and this is why they was eating flamingos and eating out of trash compactors, man. It's coming here. Social and human impact. Poverty and hunger, reduced incomes, and joblessness leads to widespread poverty. During the Great Depression, soup kitchens and bread lines became common, and they're going to ration things out, and they're going to have military deployed to the streets in order to keep the people in some type of order. It says evictions and foreclosures spike as people can't pay rent and mortgages, as seen in the U.S. housing crisis post-2008. Health decline. It's when it gets good. Mental and physical health deteriorate due to stress, malnutrition, lack of access to health care. Life expectancy dropped in some countries during the 1900s Russian economic collapse. Crime and unrest. Desperation can fuel crimes. Looting and riots. Argentina's 2001 collapse saw violent protests and widespread looting. Hey, they should invade one another. Common sense. Government and policy responses. Fiscal strain, tax revenues plummet, while demand for social services, unemployment benefits, welfare surges, straining government budgets. Policy failures or inventions. Government may impose austerity, print money, risking inflation, or enact stimulus. U.S. New Deal outcomes vary widely. Debt defaults. Countries may default on sovereign debts, as Argentina did in 2001 or Greece did nearly in 2015, triggering further economic isolation and political instability. Public anger could lead to regime change, populism, or authoritarianism, which goes into your dystopia. The Weimar Republic's collapse paved the way for Hitler's rise. Then global ripple effects. Yep, and then long-term consequences, structural changes, inequality, erosion of trust, and the list goes on. There will be no recovery for this. All right, and that's the plan. The elites are planning on doing this thing to the point that it's not gonna recover. It's not gonna rebound, and that's the plan. That's why they're kicking the can down the road. All right, so this is the book of Jeremiah 51:7. It says, Babylon have been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. It says, the nations have drunken of our wine, therefore the nations are mad. We just read that in Habakkuk, right? It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her and take balm for our pain, if so she may be healed. And she's not going to be healed, because no matter how many stimulus or how many bailouts you do to these corporations and banks, the dollar will collapse, okay? And it may collapse on Trump's watch. It's very likely to happen. We're closer than ever. It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her and take balm for our pain, if so she may be healed. And the average American, including you Jakes, want this place to be healed. But we're calling for Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai's judgment upon Babylon the Great. Okay, we look forward to it, man. Because that's when all the folly and all the bullshit plan stops. And this is when you Israelites out there, you're going to realize that, hey, you're in a bad state. Especially those of you that's been playing games with the MOTB breakdown. But it says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. So forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reaching into heaven and is lifted up upon the skies, man. So there's no healing for this place. Okay, Babylon will not be healed. And when this place falls, this is going to pave the way for the mark of the beast. And that mark of the beast is going to be the so-called hope for people to get back into some type of normalcy. But things are going to rapidly fall apart to the point I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but we'll see. Second Ezra 6, and I'm gonna start at 22. It says, and suddenly shall the sown, it says, and suddenly, meaning suddenly, shall the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouses should be found empty. And the places that sown is talking about these, like he mentioned, the Walmarts and all that other stuff. But I'm just business as usual, your tax revenues, your state governments, your federal governments, your city governments. These are the sown places. But once this happens, hey, before you know it, they're going to lay off city employees, state employees, federal employees already been getting the chop. And then it's going to trickle down to your fire departments, your police department, because those are still fire department and police departments and they're still on a city. That's still a city budget. That's local municipalities, man. So the police essentially works for the city. They're city employees for the most part. They're just under a different, I won't say jurisdiction, but they're under a different, what do you call it? Union than the average public worker, And it says, and a trumpet should give sound, which when every man hear it, they should suddenly be afraid. And at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear of those that dwell therein, and the springs of the fountain shall stand still. In 3 hours they should not run. Okay, so this is getting ready to happen. Places are getting ready to go up in smoke. These people are literally on the brink of losing it, man. Okay, let this trade war don't go the way that these people anticipate, and let things get higher. I guarantee you'll see some type of riot or civil unrest by the midsummer if this shit continues in the way that it is, But regardless of it, whether it happened then or not, it will happen, okay? And shit, hey, Babylon is getting ready to be destroyed. And it says, and whosoever remaining from all those that I have told thee should escape and see my salvation at the end of your world. That's talking about the elect. And also the elites, because they're going to see the salvation of the Lord's men in the bunkers, because they're going to have everything televised anyway. They're going to have access to the camera. They're going to see all type. They're going to have access to what's happening around the world in the bunkers, man. This is why they're talking about taking, I believe, I was reading an article that they was talking about taking some type of carbon monoxide or something at some type of levels from the atmosphere. I think it was like 3,000 something tons or some shit a year to fuel those bunkers when the elites go under there, which they're probably already in bunkers. I wouldn't doubt it. But it says here, and the men that are received shall see it, and who have not tasted death from that birth. And the heart of the inhabitants should be changed and turned into another meaning. But for evil should be put out, and deceit should be quenched. And as for faith, it should flourish, and corruption should be overcome. And the truth, which have been so long without fruit, should be declared. And that's when Yahweh Shai comes back. All right. So anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor is due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you will edify to the next lesson. Shalom.
So Trump came out a few hours ago and said that Americans are going to suffer financially for at least 2 years while his tariff strategy takes place. Okay, which means millions of people are about to lose their jobs, they're about to lose their homes, they're going to lose everything they have, kids are going to be food insecure. We are looking at an economic tsunami. Okay, there's only one of two scenarios in which we can turn this around. One is Trump is lying about the tariffs. If he's lying and he backs down the tariffs, that could help. Okay, he lies every day, so that wouldn't be surprising. But if he's not lying and he keeps these tariffs in place, the only thing we can do is march in the streets and fight back. Call your local representatives. Do whatever you can. Show up at town halls, okay, and complain before he takes every single thing you have. Don't think he'll lose a minute of sleep over it. He's a sociopath. He doesn't feel your pain. He doesn't care about you. Believe me. Even if you're MAGA, he doesn't care about you. I know you think he does, but he doesn't.
They told you to work hard. They never told you the empire was collapsing around you. The American worker stands as history's most betrayed promise. You were sold the dream, but they delivered the decline. 5 million manufacturing jobs have vanished since 2000 to the preservation of profit over people. The factories that built the middle class now stand as abandoned monuments. Steel rusts in Pennsylvania, auto plants empty in Michigan, textile mills silent in the Carolinas. While productivity rose 62% since 1979, wages grew just 17%. The surplus value of your labor was extracted, exported, exploited, while you were told to blame your neighbor. This was not an accident. This was design. Yet no politician dared tell you the empire was fading. No economist warned that your children would live poorer than you. No teacher prepared you for the hollowing out of everything you built. Instead, they weaponized your pain, turned worker against worker, native against immigrant, red against blue. The oldest strategy of dying empires. Divide those who, united, might demand answers. The wealth concentration data tells the story they won't. The top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. This is not capitalism functioning. This is capitalism dying. Your community wasn't destroyed by bad luck. Your job wasn't shipped overseas by accident. Your pension didn't evaporate by chance. These were calculated decisions by those managing imperial decline. You think they didn't see this coming? They owned the data. They knew. But they never prepared you, because prepared people ask questions. They never warned you, because warned people demand alternatives. The betrayal continues in silence. The collapse proceeds on schedule. The working class has been sacrificed on the altar of imperial maintenance. The question isn't whether you've been betrayed. The question is when you'll recognize who betrayed